Afternoon, Jay. It's
going?
all right. We're back. What is this? Wednesday afternoon, right?
Yep.
In the 3rd of April, moving right along. Go from 70 degrees and spring-like to winter returning with snow showers as I came into your office.
That's Indiana for
Indiana, but not bad. Although I just wanted to start again, commenting beforehand. It was really fun to see your little post on your Instagram yesterday afternoon with Leo, our creative, fun-loving, crazy young guy, doing his skimboarding on the back of your yard with the little runoff from all the rain we had the other evening. So that was fun to see. Just crazy man that he is. It was a lot of fun. Well, yeah, this afternoon, Jay, just wanted to continue our bantering back and forth on my journey and our learning experience through this time of life that we've labeled the encore years, the retirement time. And today I picked on a theme that I know you like to drive home through me a lot, and I wanted to do this since I know it hits a nerve with you a little bit on me. So maybe to instill a little bit more of that between us here this afternoon. But the idea of falling back on bad habits during this time and the impediment it might make to those of us that are enjoying this time of life, of maybe not enjoying it as much as we could, or maybe slowing us down a bit. And so, as I know myself, I fall victim to that nice, easy way of being comfortable. And you always like to roll your eyes when I talk about those things, and you pick on me about that, which I appreciate. And it's all constructive. So I thought we'd hit that up a little today, because I picked on it starting out by a quote from Aristotle. It says, we are what we repeatedly do. And driving that home is that, life always depicts this retirement time of life, the encore phase of life, as being a lot of leisure, and relaxation. And indeed it is, because we get to enjoy these days on our time and our schedule. But of course, life is life, and this very nice time of life is always met with challenges that come our way, and it throws a little bit of curveballs to us, which is life. Mm-hmm. The thing that becomes very interesting to all of us at this time, though, is when we should just allow those to bounce off of us, right? Because we don't have to worry about so much. We have a tendency to, and I know I find myself still doing that, stop and pause and fall victim to that habit of how we may have thought about or reacted to a change that's come about, in life, or those things around us that are influencing us that we shouldn't worry so much about anymore, be it, economical, political, or societal. But it's interesting that I'm finding that I'm seeing also that to live this life in, a very comfortable way and age maybe gracefully, there's all those things we need to do, right? Take care of our health, get a little bit more of a routine with our exercise, better diet. We've talked about those in the past, and those seem obvious, but I also seem to think that, as obvious as they are, if we didn't have good habits before on those, this is a time in our life to make changes, to make better habits. Mm-hmm. But maybe we don't, because we fall victim to just doing what's comfortable. And so that's where I wanted to go, right? Because to me, it seems like the secret to all of this is about our habits and what we can do to change those habits, mm-hmm. right? And you talk a lot, and we've gone back and forth a little bit about continuing to want to have a better version of ourselves. And I see this time of life as a true opportunity for those of us to really hone in on that personal growth, because, we've shed, if you would, all the trials and tribulations of being held to a very strict schedule when we're working, because mm-hmm. we got to put in the hours at the office, or if you're an entrepreneur, you got to put in the hours in your day to run your business, or whatever you may be doing in your life. But I think that even though we should shed that time, we still find a way, at least I know I do, I trip and fall, but I still find a way not to just take the day comfortably and enjoy it. I am starting the day much more relaxed, obviously, getting up, getting through the papers, having some breakfast, going to work out, doing some work, for you that has to be done, that keeps me engaged, which I think is very critical and much appreciated. But the decisions that can be made for some reason or another may sometimes allow us not to do things better, right? I mean, do I do this? Do I do that? Instead of just saying, yeah, let me do something different today. It's like, well, why bother? Because, I'm comfortable doing things this way.
Mm-hmm.
I say that only to spur the conversation that is it that we're humans and we have habits and habits are difficult to break? Or what do you think about talking to someone of breaking habits and doing some things that are better for you to make a profound impact on how a person can change their life and take a path down a better road?
I don't know if I'm the best person to talk about like changing habits. I think I would encourage anybody who's interested in to read Atomic Habits by James Clear, which is all about how habits form and why they form the way they do and how you can change your habits. I think if you're wanting to change your habits, I think it's easier to start small and make small changes every day and keep on doing it and allow the compounding effect of those change your habits. But I also think it's easier to make changes to our habits when there's like a greater purpose. So like just to wake up one day and say, I should do things differently because I read something or I saw something, like there's nothing really driving you to change the habit you want to change. But if you can attach something of great importance or greater value and like emotionally be attached to it, then I think you have a better chance of making the change. So like there's a saying that change will happen when the pain of not changing exceeds the pain of staying the same. So if you think about like if we use health, if you're not living a healthy lifestyle, but it's not causing that much pain, you're probably not going to change. But eventually the pain of not changing your behavior and your habits to have better health, that pain of not changing will become greater than whatever ailment you're going through today. And that's when you're going to change. So I think some people might be able to say, I want to, do this thing because I read it's supposed to be good for you, and they're able to do it. Or somehow they're able to attach themselves to it, have a greater purpose behind it, and have a why. But I think most of us, there needs to be a why that is so great that you're going to make those changes. And then it's just thinking of the habit day by day. Like, don't go from changing from, not doing something to doing something and think about it from, I've got to do it, forever. Just today I need to do this thing. And the next day, today I need to do this thing. And the more you do it, the more it becomes a part of your schedule, it becomes more of your behavior. And then that's kind of when the habit begins to evolve and form. So it's definitely not easy, but you've got to have a purpose attached to the new habit to, I think, move you away from the old habit.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's very true. And I didn't mean this conversation to mean that as individuals and even myself, getting up one day and waking up and flipping the switch and saying, okay, I'm going to put away all my bad habits and start these new. I think that's driven in us because we've got all these years before us that's created some of these habits. Mm-hmm. I mean, my concern is that as, I'm aging, wanting to remain comfortable is something that I have to continue to work at. And I think part of that is just the drive to want to continue to become better. Even at a time when, one can sit back and say, well, why even bother trying to be better? Because, you've worked all those years, you're now in, your retirement encore phase of life. So you just sit back and relax it and roll on. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's true in a lot of ways. However, as I'm finding, in order to just sit back and relax and roll on, sure, you can do that. But what then becomes of your life? I think we have to continue to want to be driven, just as you were driven when you were, if you would, growing up and maturing. Mm-hmm. During our youth, we were driven by those goals and ambitions and look at our future to where we wanted to be and what we wanted to overcome. And so that drove us, that kept us busy, that gave us the purpose that you mentioned. Then once we started our life as an adult, when we got married, when we started a family, how our career went, what we did there drove us, and there was a purpose. What I'm finding now in this phase of life is that it is no different now than it was prior. It just should be more personal. And I think that's what I'm settling in to find out, that this is a more personal phase of life. Mm-hmm. Not that all the previous challenges and personal moments in our lifetime mean anything less, just that this becomes more personal, because it's more or less like, we are what we do forms who we are and who we can become. Mm-hmm. And even though we're doing that throughout our life, to me, it always seemed that, at least for myself, that was driven by the need to make certain steps to get where I wanted to be, to drive the career, to keep the family, moving forward, to do what was right for you and Kristen, now to do what's right for Mom and I a little bit more. But it seems too that when those things come about, there are the moments where you fall into that habit. And for me, the habit is stepping back and thinking too much, mm-hmm. rather than, just relaxing with it and saying, why think so much? I don't know if that's something I'll ever be able to break. Maybe that's one of those things that, just as part of my DNA that will never go away. That's one of my, what ifs. What if I could really just figure out how to crack that?
The problem with figuring out how to think less is you're thinking about, how do I think less? And it's just a vicious cycle. But I want to go back, like you're talking about trying to be better. What does better even mean? Who's defining better? Is it your better or somebody else's better? And then the other thing I wanted that came up when you were talking was that I don't think that it becomes more personal in Encore phase. I think it's more personal for you at your Encore phase, because now you're aware of the agency that you have and the fact that you can make it personal. But I think you can make it personal early in your career. It's awareness. So it's important to you now, because now you're aware of the control that you have and how you can change these habits, versus you just said you went through life thinking you had to follow these certain steps to achieve these certain things that were not necessarily what you may have wanted. It was what the system said, the corporate system or the school system, whatever it was, but that you followed the steps that you were told you had to follow to reach different levels of success. And you did them in your way, but it wasn't necessarily your choice. It was the path you had to follow because that's what you're told. Now in Encore years, no one's telling you what you have to do. So now you realize, I can choose the path I want to take. I can choose the steps I want to take. I can choose the habits that I want to use to develop me to be the person that I want to be. But I think anybody can do that at any point once you have that awareness. Your awareness just came in the Encore phase, but I don't think that you have to wait until that phase to have that choice and realize you can do that.
All right. Yeah, I think very, very good point, Jay. Very good deduction on that of me. Although I will only push back a little and say, even though that's how I recite and account for my earlier part of life and what I did, I think I was always aware of where I wanted to be and how I got there. It's just that I let myself get in the way, right? Of, okay, I could do this, and I did do these things, and I did progress, and I did step out of some comfort zones at certain periods of my life when I felt like it was the right time to do it. But then I would, like I said, as you know, and you've commented to me, I just get in myself in a way because I think too much. Just like we're going through this afternoon. Mm-hmm. What I put into talking this afternoon about, it was kind of a very careful deduction on how far do I want to talk about this and what do I want to, put forward, rather than just going, okay, take a deep breath, just talk about it, put it out there and let it ride. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, part of me wants to grab your notes and throw them and see how you handle the rest of the episode.
Oh, I could do that.
You don't have your notes.
I could do that.
With your type font 100.
Well, one day when you get sophisticated enough to have a teleprompter or a table where I can put the laptop.
No, it's all off the top of your head.
Right.
Like, this is stuff that, like, the point of the conversation is to sort through what you think, and I think what you think comes spur of the moment in the moment rather than mapping it out. There's nothing wrong with having like an outline of things you want to hit on,
Right.
but like I think that you'll figure things out more when you just go with the flow and
Right.
and talk things out, and then re-listen to the episode and like, oh, like that makes total sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too in this phase, it's a little easier to, derail yourself, because as we've been saying, you're not living to a schedule. I mean, you want to have. I think it's important to have a routine still in this phase of life to make the day, purposeful, and do those things that are critical to improving, your health. The adjustments you need to make. They do take some energy and time to make those improvements in life, especially like your diet. Because again, if you're going to make a change in diet and going healthier, it takes more time to prep, right? If you're doing things healthy, you got to, you're buying more fresh, whether it be vegetables or whatever, and you got to go out and buy those, choose the right ones, prepare them properly, have them and do it versus.
That all speaks to the importance of the why.
Right.
If the reason for you changing your diet to eat healthier is because it'll help you get rid of an ailment, or you're decided, you want to do everything in your power to live longer for a reason that's really important, then yeah, that extra inconvenience is worth it because there's a greater why, there's a greater purpose to the change. Right. Versus, yeah, I know I should eat healthier, so I'm going to eat healthier. When the time comes to go do the prep or go do the shopping, it's like, I don't really care that much because there's nothing there other than you're supposed to do it. Like you've got to have, I want to see my grandchildren, or, you just posted that Pubba passed away 31 years ago. So, you've far exceeded his life expectancy, but like, let's just say that he lived only to be 70. And like now that you're getting closer to 70, maybe your purpose is I want to live longer than my father did so I can see my great grandkids or whatever it might be. And like now you have this greater emotional attachment to why you're going to eat healthier and why you're going to work out versus this is just what you're supposed to do. Because we all know we're supposed to do it, but yet America is severely overweight and obese for tons of reasons, but there's a lot of people that fall in that category that have the means and have the understanding and have the intelligence to know what they should be doing, but they don't because there's no sense of purpose to why they're making that change.
Yeah. And I think that sense of purpose is critical because we have to keep fighting to be the person we're meant to be. I mean, that is something that we disguise, I believe, we disguise differently throughout the term of our life based on our phases and what needs to go on. At least that's been my view upon it, because when you're, before you're married, you're doing things a certain way because you can. Once you get married, then you have a life that begins to be formed around the partnership, and then if a family is a part of your life, then you have that phase of life to define what goes around sustaining the family, and all your energy goes to that. When at the same time, you're still propping yourself up and doing what you can. And then finally you come full circle to where you're, if you would, right, kind of back to where you started. Mm-hmm. It's back now to just mom and me, before you and Kristen. So we're back to now mom and me, but it's very different. And now it's a matter of exploring not only what we didn't explore at that point in time, but explore what is in front of us today and what's even better today because we can, because we don't have those other moments that we have to start preparing for, other than, preparing to just continue to enjoy each other and build upon that, because we are in a difficult time and it's an extraordinary time. And with all the uncertainties, those begin to insert matters that could in normal times maybe sink you. And when I think about those things that go around, there's a quote that I remember picking up on a long time ago that says that, ships don't sink because of the water around them. They obviously sink because of the water that gets in them. Mm-hmm. So don't allow a lot of those negative thoughts or energies or the uncertainties that are propping up in our world at any point in time be the things that begin to bring you down, right?
The first thing you can do is not say we're living in difficult times. Like, we're not living in perfect times, but name a time in history you would rather be alive than now.
From what I can remember, obviously it would have been would have been the 70s and early 80s.
But we can go back to the 70s, 80s. We can find all these difficulties going on and lack of opportunities and all these things that would make it so it's not difficult. Like, you can find difficulty if you want to. So if you say we live in difficult times, then you're going to find things in your environment to make it difficult. I'm not saying it's perfect, and I'm not saying everybody has it like great, but it's only a difficult time if you see it that way, versus you acknowledge that things aren't perfect. There's things that need to be better, but it's only difficult if you see it that way. And just that framework and changing that language will change your perspective, which changing your perspective changes your experience, and your experience is all that is in this world. Like, you and I live on the same planet at the same time, but we have totally different experiences in the world. And like, so how you frame things, but that would be a habit to change. And to your point, the water on the boat, like what I wanted to is quit watching the news. Like, if you don't watch the news, you can still, there's enough information out there to know what's going on in the world that really matters, and not all of the difficulties that people put in front of you. That is what the news brings. Like, yes, so keep the water out of the ship, and then focus on the things you control and the good experiences that you have. And the more you focus on those, and don't think that everything is so trying and so hard, and because there's always stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we can point to this as an election year, and we have two individuals. I don't really want to see either one of them as president. And here we are. And we can make that be a whole big thing. And that's why America's going to crumble and it's all going to go to hell. But you could say that in every election you can find reasons. So it's just like, you can find the difficulty if you want to find it.
Oh, absolutely.
But I don't think that you should be setting the expectation of this is difficult times, because then that brings difficulty into your life.
Yeah. And that's very true. But the framing of it is still very important, because even though you say, well, don't watch the news or only pay attention because there's enough out there, which is true. But like anything else in life, and where you're at and what you're doing, you still have to be aware of your environment and what's going on.
Right, but you also don't have to let that awareness determine what, like, the awareness of the stuff going on, the things going on for the most part are probably not going to impact your life. Probably. Unless you let it.
Yeah.
Who becomes president? Yeah, you can argue that all these policies and stuff, but at the end of the day, whoever is president later this year is not going to impact your day-to-day living.
Oh,
unless you let it.
Unless, it really does become, or at least there's changes that occur. Again, the policies or whatever.
That's all out of your control.
Exactly. But I mean, still, you have to.
So why worry about something out of your control that may not even happen? And then if it happens, then you worry about it.
Right.
And the likelihood of it happening is probably far less than the likelihood of it happening. So you're going to spend your time worrying about a possibility that might happen that probably won't happen, create all this stress about this non-happening, and not enjoy your life because you're worried about this thing you think might happen. Your worry about it doesn't matter. And if it does happen, all that worry leading up to it didn't change anything anyways.
Right.
So, like, yes, be aware of it, but also don't let that determine the lenses you're looking at the world at.
Correct. Very, very true. But my point on that only is that as we're trying to enjoy this time of life, I think it's becoming more clear to me that the enjoyment happens when you're still developing your growth, that personal growth.
I think so too.
And
but I think there are some people that they don't want to grow anymore. And I would have said a year ago that isn't right, but I think the authentic life brings what's right to. I think that where I think accepting where you are and being content and not looking to grow, if you make a conscious decision to say, hey, there's nothing more that I want, I do think growth is good. I don't think being stagnant is ideal, but even if you decide that, hey, what I'm doing is it, I don't need to do any more, I think you're still going to naturally grow and evolve even without trying. Because even in that contentment phase of staying comfortable, you're still going to have new experiences, and those new experiences will open your eyes to new possibilities. And one of those new possibilities is going to spark your interest. That's going to lead you to try a new hobby,
Right.
And that's where the growth comes. So I think you would still continue to grow even without knowing, which keeps you in that moving forward progress. But I think there probably are some people that having an objective of trying to grow and get better every day, isn't right for them anymore.
Right.
Not right for me, but who am I to say that everybody should be striving to grow every single day? Maybe they don't need to.
Right. Yeah, because it is your life, right? I mean, you have your life. I have mine. Individuals that are listening have their own, and they need to be unique, and each individual needs to, find their moment in that, whatever phase they happen to be in.
And as an outsider, not that it matters to anybody else, but as an outsider, I can rest easier knowing that the individual examined all of the options and determined that whatever it is they choose is right for them. What I don't want to see people is people go down, they don't grow or they do grow because the other people are leading them there. Like, you make the decision yourself after evaluating all of the options, then I fully support you, whatever that decision is.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that's critical for the point I wanted to draw this afternoon, is because I think we have to rethink what it means as we grow older and as we mature.
Hold that thought.
Yep.
All right, pick that thought back up.
Okay, so I said I think that draws, a very close focus and puts the spotlight on the point for this afternoon that I was trying to make, is that we really need to rethink what it means as we're getting older and maturing, not only in this phase of life where I'm at, but for individuals such as yourself at your phase of the decade of the 40s, or anyone listening in their 50s, 30s, wherever you may be, because I think each phase brings about a different focus that you need to draw upon, an energy for the opportunity to grow more, to create more, and be more, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that, as we sit here and I sit here, you're still going to be at this phase of your life, you're still going to be busy just as you were in your 40s or 50s or even your early 60s, because you're still going to be, even though you're not working, you'll still be doing a lot of things. Life just keeps you running, and you do what you need, even though it's on your terms and your schedule. Like I've said, in some previous conversations of ours, I sit back and say, gosh, it's April 3rd already. Mm-hmm. This is 2024 already. This is my third year of this time. Where did all that go?
You were thinking it through.
I mean, no, not thinking it through. It's just an illustration of, bam, here we are. Mm-hmm. It has happened. And if I stop for a moment and say, okay, where am I? And not to make it a big academic lesson, but I look at it and go, how much have I really accomplished and achieved and changed in the first 3 years? Mm-hmm. I know my continuum is much longer, because our attempt is to live as far as we can, not knowing what's in front of us. But I think as I continue to look at how I want to, grow more, be more, create more, I'm seeing that, and this is to your point, you always push me on, is that you just got to clear your mind first. Take those small steps. Don't necessarily look for the big changes. And here's the point that I've really settled on, is that I think we just got to be, free in the stillness that we now have. The stillness being, you don't have that work schedule that's constantly making you think about the next day, or waking up way too early in the morning because you got a crazy busy day of nothing but conference calls or meetings and that are useless, but you got to go through it, and all the the strain coming from the anxiety of what needs to be done all around you just to move forward. Now I'm maybe be describing more of a corporate life, but if you're starting a new business, I would sense that it's a lot of that as well. And here's the point that I really like too, is that, in freeing your mind and taking those smaller steps, I think we're good to know that we don't have to worry so much about the future or the past, right? There's a stillness that we get to enjoy and just be present and locked into what we can do. Mm-hmm. And it may not be anything of any critical nature, but just locked into, this is the time of your life to do some things. Not that I didn't worry about those throughout my earlier years. I did. It's just that now it's a more relaxed sense of freedom around it, because the day is yours to have, right? And you say, okay, you're still going to have a lot to do. There's going to a lot be happening. It's kind of that, well, when I have more time, I'll do this, or when I get these things done, I'll do that. I think it's just as easy to do that in this time of life as well. Mm-hmm. But I finding out I need to sound the alarms, to your point just a few moments ago of, don't sound those alarms, just allow them to happen rather than sounding the alarm, right? Just as, give a shout out to your very dear friend Casey, who, takes his moment in time and reads my little blog post from, Terry's thoughts. And in the last one, he commented about a mutual friend of yours, he just don't flow right with me. When he talked about his thought of the when-then trap, right?
Mm-hmm.
When this happens, I'll be happier. When this happens, I'll be more content. Not to allow that to happen to us is I think, the key, or where we need to be. And I know that we're getting close to our time because you got better things to do, which is to be with the boys. So I want to wrap this up by stating that I think we just have to be satisfied with the small steps.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the key. Be satisfied with the small steps. Each of our actions is step by step, and then those will create the opportunities. And the opportunities need to be just, whatever that happens to be that day is the opportunity for us to be more comfortable with where we're at, what we're accomplishing, which I think is still critical. Not to say that you shouldn't feel like you need to accomplish anything anymore, but I think it's vastly important to us, maybe at this phase of life more than anything else, because we don't have, in a lot of cases, those other reinforcing activities or moments. Like when you're working, you have successes that happen, and those are, the horns that sound off when something great happens. You have a moment to sit back and say, damn, what a great day. Where today it's like, okay, where's that recognition for all of what was done today? I think the recognition is the matter of just realizing you got through another day, you had a good day, all the loved ones are in a great position in their lives and having fun, watching everybody where they're at, and you're here to enjoy that. It is a great moment in time. So I guess on that, I'll just say that, while we're in this life and blessed with our life, we just have to use it, right? And as always, closing on, we should never settle, right? Never quit, and always keep seeking that greater purpose is where I had to keep pushing myself. So I just, thank you for keep pushing me. Thank you for this opportunity that we have to go back and forth. Putting a little bit more out there to challenge you, even though you've got a lot that you're doing to challenge yourself. I still see, some fun in just throwing some jabs at you. And just like you had, as you said at Easter, since you had that great father moment with your sons about getting in their head and not being able to shoot the ball without being in their head, that's just a good recollection of the day when I was able to do that to you. So just a fun part of life there. So lot to be thankful for that happens and you get that moment. So thanks, Jay. It's always good to be here. Hopefully folks find this enjoyable. And as always, if you do, make sure you let folks know about this and share it, and we'll move on to the next time around.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Jay.
All right.